I'm Joe Normal, and you're watching Guitar Tales with Dave Cohen and Scott Guitarmist Engel. Have a rockin' day.
You know, Scott and I were bopping in the background for the introduction there. I decided not to humiliate myself and continue as such. First of all, we want to thank great friend of the show, Joe Normal. Thank you for the bumper. Thank you for doing the show with us. And of course, as always, we'd like to thank Mr. Studios, also friends of the show, for sponsoring the show. The great Charles Larita, who is a guest all the way back from season 1. We are so old that that's actually over 4 years ago at this point. They do great work over there in Pennington, New Jersey. And this is a different kind of show. It is our second intermezzo show. That means in between the regular outside guests, we give a chance for Scott and I to chat. And we really enjoy this because in between shows, Scott and I, just like everyone else who listens to the show, we talk music, we talk guitars, and we talk about bands and the like. And Scott's had this fantastic idea that he got from his dad. And this is really an homage to Scott's dad, who will watch the show. And it's the Bandmendments, which is just such a cool concept. And, you know, Scott behind the scenes puts together every show you see, the great graphics, lining up the guests, connecting us with Charles Larita for our sponsor, who has been a great friend and fan of the show. And we love to get Scott on periodically because he has more wisdom than I do in the world of music. So, Scott, slide yourself from the green room into this room.
Da-da-da-da-da-da. Boink,
Wow.
Here I am.
Here you are.
So, Bandmendments. What are the Bandmendments?
I want to know what the Bandmendments are.
It's an invented word, like guitarist.
Okay. Right.
And it's a studio.
Susu Studio.
A completely made-up word.
Yeah.
It's like the 10 commandments of being in a band or being a musician. My father was a drummer for many, many years. He's 82 years old now, but back in the early 60s, before the Beatles changed everything, he was with a band called the Rocketones, and we'll get into that a little bit. And then, you know, over the course of my childhood and my career as a musician, he would, being a professional musician himself, he would chime in and say, you know, blah, blah, blah. Boy, that's a great point. Let me make a note of that. So I made a list of 10 things.
Oh, so you were, you know what this is like in the early days of the Bible, right? Because the Bible, when you think about it, all the stories in the Bible were passed down orally. And at some point there were scribes, I think. I don't know, the Middle Ages is when they started writing it. So you were like a writer of the Bible, Scott.
Yeah, so I just sat down and thought about the 10 things that I remember that he said. And it's funny, I went to visit him yesterday.
Right.
And I showed him the introduction of the show we're going to do. And I told him we're going to do the Bandmendment show. And I started reading off the Bandmendments that I did. I got through the first 2. And he goes, that sounds like something I would say. Precisely, Dad.
That's the whole fucking point.
Exactly it. So we're going to cover all 10 Bandmendments and get into a little history about my father's life and career and playing drums. And we got some really funny pictures and funny stories to go with each of the Bandmendments, hopefully, if they come to mind. So that's what we got going, Dave.
I love it. And, you know, I want to spend a couple minutes on your dad. You know, in one of our earlier shows, you know, we thanked our parents because they're really the ones who put up with all the crap.
Yeah,
you had the issue with the lamp on the first floor almost fell over when we would jam upstairs. When you and I were in The Cure together before that horrible band, that Leech-like band stole our name.
Incredible.
Yeah. And then your interest in music has to have come, I would think, from Dad. Like, what a great homage to him that you have this great career in music and the show that we put a lot of love and time and effort into. And that's all coming from Dad. That's great.
Yeah, I believe there's a genetic connection to musical talent. You know, there's got to be. I mean, my brother's got it. My sister's got it. She sings. Mom can sing. She won't admit it,
Right, right,
but
right,
she was never a professional, you know, singer or a band person.
right.
My sister's been in bands.
I did not know that.
Yeah, she played drums in a band called the Bleeding Knees.
I like that name.
I think it was an all-girl band, but I'm not 100% sure.
Right.
Maybe she'll chime in when she sees this. That's the one band I remember her being in. She was into the punk scene and the rock scene and the local scene in the Asbury Park area and Neptune and all that.
Very
And my
nice.
brother had a short but storied career as an amazing guitar player, but playing out is not really his bag. You know, he's very content with being in the basement, wailing away, and playing.
A lot of people,
He's
a
not
lot of
even
our,
on social media.
you know, a lot of our guests prefer to just create music without playing in front of people.
Yeah.
You know, Matt Bradford, he has a great career touring, but of late he's creating kick-ass music from his home. And
right, just making videos, short little 1-minute videos, and people are eating it up as fast as he can dish it out.
I watch every single one, and I think
everyone, they're fantastic.
How the hell can this guy on his homemade slide guitars create something different and refreshing every single day, and yet he does?
Yeah, they're all a little bit different. You would think he would be sort of, you know, faced with being in a rut, kind of like Anthony Parker. One of our guests is a massive influencer online. You've probably seen Anthony's videos. If you don't know the name, you'll definitely know the face. But he was saying that, you know, he has difficulty coming up with ideas to do videos. And then the algorithms, the way they're set up, if you play the same type of video each time, that is a guy talking, playing guitar and talking about playing guitar,
right?
They kind of get lost in the sauce. If you come out with something a little bit weird and different, all of a sudden it blows up. And we've seen that, you know, with our channel as well.
Yeah, and I saw the last one Anthony did. He didn't even touch his guitar. He put up there and he said, "Greatest line in the history of rock and roll." He came up with a great line from a Simon and Garfunkel song, and then everyone chimes in, "They're great, but they're not rock and roll."
We you know you're doing well when you get more and more haters.
Yeah, I know. I want more hate. We need a little more hate.
So, well, you want to jump into the Bandmendments here?
I want to jump into the Bandmendments.
Okay, so
if only there was a graphic.
Well, there is, and I've got them right here. Here's rule number Bandmendments rule number 1.
Let's see.
And this is stolen. My father's and still is a very avid fisherman.
Okay.
And there's an old fisherman's proverb that all fishermen are liars except you and me. I'm not so sure about you. So Dad made this Bandmendment that says all musicians are assholes except you and me, and I'm not so sure about you.
I love it. I absolutely love it.
And what he means by that, there's a lot of assholes in the industry. I mean, we've all worked with them, we've all met them.
Yeah.
There are a lot of great guys and girls, and we get along well. But once in a while, you get into a band with a person that you just cannot stand for one reason or another.
No. So in your history, following rule number 1, and obviously not in the smoking jackets, but in your in your history, ever deal with the volume hog? You know, the person who will just never.
Yeah. I've had instances where the lead person of the band was so jealous of the cheering and stuff that I got. In fact, my father was alluding to something that happened to him in the band he was in.
Okay.
When I told him the first thing, it immediately brought back the memory that he was in a band and the guy was in control of the soundboard. Was also in the band, and he would just go over to the side when my father was singing and turn down the volume.
That's horrible. That is just
because every time he got done singing a song, people went ape shit, but they didn't go that much ape shit over the guy that was the leader of the band.
Right.
So they started messing around with his tone controls and his volume controls and stuff.
I wonder if Bandmendment Rule 1 is usually rooted in insecurity. Is that what makes them the assholes?
Possibly. I mean, you know, it's and then it's just bad band etiquette. You know, I've had issues where I was playing with another guitar player and the guy was playing so incredibly loud that I couldn't hear myself, and that was very frustrating. Then I turn up a little bit, and then he'd turn up a little bit, and then I turn up a little bit, and then next thing you got all out volume war.
Yeah, and then even if
you're not servicing anybody,
no,
not the band, not the people that are there, it just became a war between him and I, and that was basically the last time I played a gig with that band, and that was the end of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we get it in famous bands. Look, Roger and Pete have had fistfights with
Right.
each other, you know?
Yeah, the Toxic Twins, the Aerosmith. I mean,
Yeah.
that's where these labels come from. A band
Right.
is like a family, and sometimes it's a dysfunctional family, and they still get by. I mean, look at all the
Yeah.
fighting going on in Journey now. Neil
Oh my God.
Schon is suing this one, and this guy's suing this guy, and
Yeah.
it's a disaster.
Oh, it completely is. I mean, I went out. I actually got to meet Ace Frehley. I know we're doing a Kiss show soon. I saw him.
Right.
I met him last summer. He's
Yep.
kicked out of Kiss.
Yeah.
I mean, Ace Frehley was kicked out of Kiss. You know,
And you got
yeah.
you know, you got famous stories like Pete Best and the Beatles. How they just, I'm sure Pete Best wasn't happy with the Beatles when they kicked him out. He probably thought they were assholes.
Yeah,
Kicking him out of the
true.
band and hiring Ringo.
And under the rule, but he's not an asshole by definition, right?
Yeah. So that's Bandmendment number 1.
All right, I'm ready for 2.
Here comes Bandmendment number 2. All right, Bandmendment 2. Never join a band when the guy names the band after himself. He'll be a controlling asshole. So here's another theme of assholism again.
Okay, right.
And all the troubles that I alluded to in the first story was the leader of the band who named the band after himself.
Wow.
When our good friend Tico Torres was left Frankie Previtt's band, Frankie and the Knockouts, to be with unknown John Bon Jovi, who was just a sweeper at the local radio station, WAPP in New York City.
Right.
My father and him are very close friends, and back then,
your father and Tico, that is right.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
He said, "Hey, I got a feeling about this kid. I'm going to join this band Bon Jovi." And Frankie and the Knockouts already had a record deal with MCA and everything. He's like, "What are you doing? What's the name of the band?" "It's called Bon Jovi, named after the guy that owns the band." And my father's like, "Don't do it. He's going to be a controlling asshole." But as history went along, sometimes you get lucky, and things go well. But a lot of the times when somebody's naming the band after themselves, it could lead to trouble. They could be a horrible boss. Basically, not all guys that name the band after themselves are terrible.
No, but even if they could be a good boss, but they'll always be a boss.
Right.
Like I can't imagine, and I'm trying to think in the world of famous bands, any bands that are named after a person where that person is not recognized as the boss, the leader. Like you think like Genesis back in the day.
Jay Giles is a great example.
Oh, you're right.
I didn't even know Jay Giles was a real person.
Yeah.
In the band back then. I thought Peter Wolf was Jay Giles.
Oh, you're right. That seems like an egalitarian setup.
Isn't that weird? But he was supposedly the ruler of the whole shooting match.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, that's a good example. Like you think about Genesis, they shared all their songwriting credits apparently.
Right.
And that just always struck me as a very egalitarian band. And I'm thinking, although Frankie is truly a friend of the show, and he strikes me as an egalitarian guy, but he was Frankie in the Knockouts.
Right.
But he's such a sweet human being. I wonder if he's an exception to that rule. We got to meet him and hang out with him, and
I find it's usually the bands that are, say, the blah 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 band.
Yeah.
Like the Steve Miller band.
Right.
Steve Miller is in control of every single thing that goes on in that band.
Yeah.
You don't even know the names of the other guys in the band.
No, and that's also, I would think, yes, the people in that band can ride the wave if they connect themselves to the right person.
Right.
But I would guess that in terms of them having independent name recognition and an independent juice in their career, that's a little more challenging when you're the guitar player for the Joe Smith band.
I mean, there are countless stories. I mean, Buddy Rich being a controlling SOB with his band and all the trouble he put them through, and
James Brown.
Brown was historically a prick.
Yeah.
To his band
and the women in his life.
A controlling asshole.
Yeah, there you go.
Right.
Go you, Hank Engel. You got it right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So here's Bandmendment number 3.
All right.
This is a good one.
Okay.
Never buy any equipment with the band. When they quit, and they always do, they're going to want their money back, or just leave with the equipment without any reimbursement to you.
Yeah, that's like buying a house with with a girlfriend,
Yeah.
or something like that.
I was in a blues band called Wild Blue Yonder, and the bass player, I think, owned the PA.
Right.
We did 2 gigs, I think, and at the 3rd gig, he said, I don't want to be in this band anymore. And I go, all right, well, whatever. It's no hard feelings. And then I realized he's taking the PA with him.
Oh my God.
Now, I didn't. That's a case where he owned his own stuff and he just disappeared and went.
Took everything. Yeah.
But there are situations where, and Tom Janarone alluded to this in the
I was thinking of him. Yeah.
The band episode that
Yeah.
you buy equipment, you should put under the LLC so that the whole band owns the equipment.
Yep. And whether the band is, if you and I are in a band and Scott is a 3/4 owner or a 50% owner, when you buy it as a band, whatever that agreement says controls the ownership of the equipment.
Right.
Yep.
And then the individual items, like, you're not going to share probably not going to share microphones,
right,
or guitars or harmonicas and stuff like that. Personal items that you would be using in the band.
Right.
But whenever you go in on something with somebody and there's a falling out, then you could have trouble down the road.
It's legally a divorce.
Yeah.
And if it's a divorce without a marriage, and the marriage is the contract that Tommy's talking about, right?
Yeah.
So, it's like living with, if you're a girlfriend or a boyfriend, and you just have a bunch of stuff you bought together, and it's just chaotic, I would think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's a really, great point, and it kind of circles back to the legal aspects of being in a band. Sometimes, the more famous you are, the more money you make.
Right.
All of a sudden, everybody's interested when you're not making any money.
Right.
And you don't have any hits or whatever it is. You don't have any tour dates or gigs or anything, and nobody gives a damn. The minute you're unhappy and you leave the band and you own 50% of the PA, you're going to have an issue.
Yeah, you're right. And then bigger band, bigger problems.
Yeah.
Right.
Who owns the lights? Who owns the fog machine?
That's right.
All this kind of stuff. So that was number 3. Number 4.
There's 3 beers in the fridge. Who owns those?
Exactly. You split those up. Here's number 4. All right. This is good too.
Yes.
Dynamics are the most important thing a musician can learn. Not playing is almost as important as playing.
Yes.
Now,
oh my
this
God.
seems like something everybody should know.
Not everyone knows it.
I can tell you right now, I see a lot of live bands, and some of them are just cranking away.
Yeah. My first, after our high school band, I was in my first gigging band at Delaware, and Craig Ackerman was our drummer, and he shouted the word dynamics, and he was such a great leader for our little band. And I had never heard of, I'm a kid, I'd never heard of such a thing. And it was great because he would have us all sort of quiet down, give Katie Milek, our singer, give her more of a platform, that we would bring it up for chorus or what have you. I had never even heard of such a thing. And I think it made us relatively listenable.
Right.
No,
dynamics are super important.
Yeah.
And I think some of the best songs and best performances are where everybody takes it down a notch and let's say highlights the vocals. Saw a great band over the weekend. Our friend Chris D'Amico was a guest of the show at Bar Anticipation, did the Suit and Mai Tai on Sunday.
Okay.
Just like the drink, MAITAI.
Right.
And they were covering, yacht rock type songs. But that's the whole idea of the band, to do those kind of AM nuggets, I call them. And they put their own spin on them. And one of the things they did dynamically that applies to this rule is the whole band would stop playing and they would just do a cappella vocals.
I love it.
And then bring the band back in, Yeah. And it's very, very effective.
I was just on my reels today, and I think there were some sour grapes involved, but Andy Summers was giving an interview about Every Breath You Take.
Mm-hmm.
And, he was talking about how he wrote the guitar part. I think he did the interview because apparently he doesn't make money off all the samples that get paid to Sting. But in a band that doesn't have Sting's name as the lead. But anyway,
right.
And I thought about that song, and the dynamics, everyone goes down to let that really simple, and he described it as a simple riff. I think I was once in a band that did that song,
mm-hmm.
and it's really quiet. And when you think of the you know that little guitar part, there's very little else going on. Everyone's tamped down.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that role.
In fact, they were arguing over how the drums should sound. Now,
Yeah.
that seemed like a big problem, but they really mulled over it for a long time.
Oh, you heard the same interview, or at least
where they were like, you know, the snare was, we don't want it to be too deep or compressed. We want it to be snappy, but we don't want it to be too loud, and you know, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And Stu Copeland's like, I just want to play drums, but they wanted him to keep it simple.
Yeah.
I could tell you, Bon Jovi is always, and especially in the beginning, I used to hear stories like Tico wanted to do. He's a better drummer than people realize he is, because everything he does is a little more simplistic.
Okay.
On the recordings, you know, straight hard rock and straight four stuff and simple fills. But that was primarily because of John. John didn't want anything fancy. No double bass drum tricks, no massive fills, not too many cymbals. So if you listen to Bon Jovi songs, it's very, you know, simplified.
Yeah, and to John's credit, he had a vision that, holy shit, did that play out for them? Right. You know, even if Tico or the subsequent drummers couldn't really flex or sort of musically be as expansive as they might have wanted to be.
He did was he went in a different direction, and our good friend, the late Joe Loria, used to say to Tico, "Why don't you add some different traps and sounds and weird things to the recordings? Can you get away with doing that?" Right. So you'll hear like little cymbal bells.
Okay.
Like the thing of doon-da, doon-da, ding, 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 right?
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
They had finger bells and little bongos and little tchotchkes and little things to make noises with. There's a lot of that going on. You can hear some of those things. But drumming wise, nothing too crazy like a Rush song would be, let's say.
Right.
where they're expected to overplay every song, right?
They are, and they're expected to overplay it perfectly.
But they still had dynamics.
They did. Yeah, absolutely right.
You know, you come in quiet with Reg Barchetta with the harmonics in the beginning, and then the whole thing at the end, it erupts. And
and it's funny because once in a while, I'll go on a YouTube journey for Rush, and it's funny you're saying that, because I'll go on journeys and sort of like Spirit of the Radio.
Yeah,
that's I think it's my favorite Rush tune. A lot of their live versions are just too loud and too crowded compared to the studio, for me anyway, compared to the studio recording. And I wonder if, at least for my taste, that they're not exercising Rule 4 of Dad's Bandmendments.
It could be, yeah.
They might not have read it. It might be the issue.
It's important. I mean, if you listen to the beginning of Spirit of Radio, it's all guitar. Nobody else is playing.
Yeah.
But there could have just as easily been some drumming going on there.
You're right.
And there isn't. So not playing is just as important as playing.
Absolutely.
Let's go to rule number 5, Bandmendments.
We shall.
Here's number 5. There's a difference between playing and performing. A flurry of notes don't make... Sorry about the bad in grammar here. This is the way it goes better this way. A flurry of notes...
It ain't make you great.
Yeah. A flurry of notes don't make you great. Your stage presence does.
Yeah.
And I do this all the time. I'm always about the show.
Yeah, and you're about your audience. That's what I love.
It's something dumb like a kazoo solo, or using the toy ray gun for a Rebel Yell, which, you know, Steve Stevens does in concert, and it's like, I got to do that.
Yeah.
Or using the talk box, a real talk box to do talk box songs instead of the wah-wah pedal. A lot of guitar players, I'm not bringing extra stuff.
Right.
I don't know how to use that thing. I don't want to gag on the mic.
Right.
When you got a tube in your mouth. But so there are a lot of things that we do performance-wise. We may not be the greatest guitar player, greatest band, but when people leave, they just seem to remember the good stuff.
Well, I will say this about the Smoking Jackets. Like our show, they leave as friends. You know, they come as strangers, leave as friends, which is true. People see your show, and if they don't know you, they leave as fans. I don't even know if you know it. I don't know if I told you, but a really good friend of mine, a fellow attorney, I sent him to Bar for your last gig there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he left as a fan.
Cool.
He and his wife went, and they loved it. Barry Sugarman, I'll give him a shout out.
Awesome.
He saw your show and loved it.
Thank you. Tom Janneron, I think, famously once said we used to blow the confetti cannon almost off at every gig. Now it makes an appearance every once in a while.
Right.
But we had this confetti cannon that would explode at the end of the show and shoot paper all over the place.
Right.
I talked about it on the first episode that we did that at the Stone Pony, and they were not too happy.
Yeah.
But that confetti cannon is like that little stick they have in Men in Black where they go poof.
Right.
No matter how the rest of the gig was, you might think it was musically crappy, or we made a lot of mistakes, or we could have done better, or you know, whatever insecurities you have as a band member of your show. That confetti cannon is the last thing they remember.
Yeah.
And the only thing they remember from some of the shows, I mean, or the kazoo playing.
Yeah.
You know,
both of them are fun and celebratory. And what the hell are people out for other than that? Right.
Right. So it's you know, I've seen lots of players that are amazing guitar players, let's say, as an example, and just stand there like a statue, playing their ass off. They're not grimacing. They're not bending their knees. They're not holding the guitar in the air. You know, they're not doing anything interesting except a flurry of notes. And honestly, for the lame person, a flurry of notes doesn't cut it. They don't care if you can play eruption note for note. Sometimes they want to see
something fun,
some kind of show.
Yeah. Well, I saw Steely Dan on Long Island, Jones Beach. I saw them many years ago. I don't remember anything.
Great example. Phenomenally gifted musicians, but they could bore you to death. They don't they just sit there and stand there and don't move around.
The same thing with Squeeze. I saw Squeeze when I was in college. And they were great. I mean, it sounded great. Boring. Just straight up boring.
You really gotta sell it. I mean, and it's easy. Sometimes I find myself playing and I'm in a zone.
Yeah.
And I'm concentrating on the notes and stuff. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not really moving around that much. I'm in the same place on the stage I was 10 minutes ago. I gotta maybe I'll walk over to the keyboard guy or walk over to the bass player or interact with the audience or I don't know, put on a pair of sunglasses or wear a lighted Stratocaster or something, anything to make it interesting to watch.
I mean, I'm thinking of the Stones right now. I mean, think of how theatrical Keith Richards is when he plays.
Yeah.
You know, I could picture his right hand in my head right now.
Yeah.
Just the sort of the way he goes down and, you know, hits the chords and he's over exaggerated and it's great.
This is a good point too, though. I've also seen bands where everybody's hyper animated.
That's a little much, right? Yeah.
Just the show starts and all 7 guys or 5 guys and a girl, or whatever, are all jumping around on the stage like they're being played with as marionette puppets all over the place.
And you know, the important amendment to what you're saying is that if you're going to move around, to me as an audience member, let it be organic and not sort of your perception of what makes you look cool. Something that just is how you're feeling your own music, how you're feeling your crowd in front of you. Because there are bands, you know, or I will say this, I can't stand watching Johnny Depp play. and I hate the fact that he does seem to be a good guitar player, which annoys me even more.
Well, I don't know. Is he really? He's
competent.
He's got a great look.
And
he definitely looks cool, but I don't know if there's anything
oh my god, it's
quality
just
coming out of that amplifier or not. But
it's to me it annoys the hell out of me. You know, there's 100 scarves all over his body.
That's why I'm laughing because I get the same vibe that he's trying overcompensating for coolness and not so much content.
And
playing.
And yet they're doing very well. So what do I know? The Hollywood Vampires,
right?
We have to edit a picture of him with all his bandanas if we could put it in here. But it annoys the hell out of me. But I have heard a few little clips where he appears to be competent. There were some of them where I thought he actually doesn't even know how to play guitar. I would watch them. And because I didn't hear anything. I literally wouldn't hear anything. And then he, you know, very annoying. Very, very annoying.
There are a couple of movie star rock guys out there, and I cannot think of another person, but they don't.
Kevin Bacon.
They got caught a couple of times without actually playing.
Oh, really? I think Kevin Bacon can
they,
play.
They were going like this. Hi, everybody, and their chords were still going on.
Good.
Or
let
something,
them,
you know, something
let them
like
get
that.
caught. I like that.
Yeah. Okay.
Stay in your lane. Stay in your lane.
Rule 6. Here we go. Rule 6.
Yeah.
Rule 6 on breaking equipment. I've never broken a cymbal ever. If you're breaking cymbals, you're an asshole. So here's an asshole again.
Okay.
Who was playing drums so hard that he's breaking cymbals. That is a lot more difficult to do than you realize.
I can't imagine breaking a cymbal.
Unless the cymbal is a super thin Zildjian or something.
Yeah.
My father had a cheap cymbal once that he gave me, or he had given to somebody else. I didn't like it because it was cheap, and he was a Zildjian guy.
Right.
And he went to see the guy's show, and the guy crashed the cymbal, and it unraveled like a gigantic slinky.
Really? Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, which is kind of funny. But yeah, I mean, purposely breaking things for the show appeal is probably one thing, but you know, go easy on your stuff. There's no reason to be breaking guitar necks and strings, yes, sticks, yes, but anything after that, any other abuse is probably not necessary. And if you're breaking cymbals, you got to take it easy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But I thought that was funny.
That is funny.
Right, here's rule 7. Rule 7 is don't want to hear about you complain about the gig. Did you get fed? Did you get paid? Shut your mouth. So this is more or less a wedding band situation. I was in wedding bands. My dad was in wedding bands.
Right.
Later on to make money, and you know when the whole rock and roll career thing didn't quite pan out because the Beatles screwed up everything. He will tell you that. But I'd come home from a wedding gig. You know, it was the sound was the maitre d was a pain in the ass. Like, did you get fed? Yes. Did you get paid? Yes. Shut your mouth.
I like it. I like that. And I like the why you are. Shut your mouth. Yeah. And you know what? It's your dad's way of saying gratitude. It's like your dad's in a yoga class.
Mm-hmm.
I was waiting for a spit take on that.
No. This is probably a good time of any to bring up a couple of pictures here of Dad.
Oh, yeah. Let's do that.
Well, you saw in the beginning of the show, this is Dad in his Slingerland set, his white pearl Slingerlands.
And I like the old-fashioned style of holding the drumstick, the jazz style.
And a suit. White suit with a black tie, probably. And I believe, if memory serves me correct, he had to sell that drum set to buy an engagement ring to marry my mom.
Oh, that's funny.
And my mom bought him a red sparkle Slingerland, which I grew up on playing.
Oh, wow.
And then at some point he switched over to Tama drums. So that's what the Rocketones. Here's a shot of the Rocketones. In the back there, you say, "Rock with the Rocketones," that poster says. Jubilee Recording Artist. Jubilee Records was a small record label in Elizabeth, New Jersey. And
it's a cool picture.
They cut a couple of records. He still has the 78s somewhere. I wish I can convert those digitally so we can play them for people because the songs are quite good.
Right.
So he doesn't have any vocal songs. The vocalist is the fella on to the right of my father. That's Pete Saragusa.
Okay.
Pete was the leader of the band. Pete's son, Tony, you may recognize.
Yep.
The late Goose Saragusa, Tony Saragusa from the Ravens.
He got a Super Bowl ring, didn't he?
He did, yes.
Yeah.
So Tony went on to be quite a famous football player. But I met Tony at Bar A, Bar Anticipation, and people were bothering him about football stuff. Football this, football that, football this. And I come over and I go, real close, I go, the Rocketones. That's all I said to him. He turned around like,
right, I bet he did.
How do you know the Rocketones? I go, my father and your father were in the band together. Oh my God, who was your dad? And then I showed him that picture, which he had never seen before.
Oh, that's great.
So that, you know, and this other picture of the Rocketones too, which is kind of cool.
That's a great picture.
I sent it to him.
That's a nice looking guitar too.
Yeah, they were playing vintage guitars back then. I don't know how they had enough money to buy those. And then Dad created another band in the 60s called the Skipjacks. I think they used to play a lot of lounges and stuff like that. And
was he in the Baltimore area?
Tony was.
The reason I ask,
but everybody's from New Jersey. They're from Kenilworth.
The reason I ask is that I once saw the B hockey team in Baltimore. They are named the Skipjacks.
Isn't that weird?
And I meant to ask you that earlier.
Yeah,
I wonder if
there's no relation. And then
yeah.
talking about performing instead of playing, there you go.
Wow, look at that.
Dad with the mallets making a face, wearing a wig, and I
Right.
don't know what's going on. The guy's got his finger in his nose. It was the one with one hell of a show. And then you had the wedding, and then you had the Italian wedding band. My father was the only non-Italian in the wedding band. Frankie's Mellow Tones.
That's a great name.
Frank Biscayno, war hero. After the war, started this band, and he was the band leader, and he brought his sons in. Johnny on the left and Frank Jr. on the right there, or maybe on the far right. I'm not sure who the other saxophone guy is. And then my dad's on the far left there with his tie and his drumsticks. And they did gazillions of weddings.
I can't imagine a more 70s picture than that.
Yeah, I have one. Here it is.
You found it.
Right out of Dumb and Dumber, those tuxedos.
They really, oh my God, you're right.
With the, and here's the funny thing is that Frank, the leader of the band, was a tailor, and he made all those jackets for them.
Wow.
I still have my father's black tuxedo jacket in my closet, and it still fits, and it still doesn't look too shabby in case I need a tuxedo jacket.
There you go.
It's still alive and well. So that's a lot of fun to look at those pictures. All right, so let's get back to the Bandmendments. We're at Rule 7 now. Let's go to Rule 8. This is a good one, too. The public never knows what songs you're going to play. The idea we have to play that song is nonsense. If you're a band with a catalog of hits, then you have a point. Otherwise, no one cares. So what does that mean? How many bands have argued, we got to do... Brown-Eyed Girl.
Because it's on our list.
Brown-Eyed Girl.
It's on our list.
Everybody wants to hear it. And then some guy goes, it's hokey. Nobody wants to hear that stupid song. It's overplayed.
Right.
Mustang Sally is overplayed. Blah, 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 blah. But the argument that you have to do some certain song, no matter how hot it is, if you don't do it well,
don't you're right. It. No, I don't go to a wedding or a bar, and if I see a cover band, expect to hear Brown-Eyed Girl or White Wedding or whatever song. Yeah, I just expect to hear music.
I mean, there's some playlists that are very ingenious and and really fit the style of the band. Suit and Mai Tai, right? Had their yacht rock songs in there. There were a lot of great surprises in there of songs I haven't heard a band do in years. And that was, as a musician, very refreshing.
Yeah,
you got Super Trans Am doing their show, all 70s rock. Costume changes, lights.
Really?
Oh yeah, all kinds of stuff, fog and this and that, but the song choices are rooted right in the 70s rock, and it fits their persona perfectly.
I like that.
But if you're just a regular old cover band, if you're not really labeling yourself as anything, nobody going to the show is expecting to hear. They won't be disappointed. Like, wow, they didn't do "Living on a Prayer."
Yeah. I'm not happy. Yeah,
they're not going to. Now, if you saw the Stones and the Stones didn't do Satisfaction or something, you're like, what the hell? They didn't do Satisfaction?
Yeah, that's a good rule. That is a great rule that I think Tommy should incorporate all these when he represents bands. It'll resolve a lot of fights.
I know that Pat Benatar's not playing "Hit Me with Your Best Shot" anymore.
No,
because of the school shootings and so forth.
Oh, that's true.
I don't see the connection there at all.
I don't either, but I guess that's her way of being sensitive.
Hit me with your best shot is his figure of speech and has nothing to do with actual shooting anybody.
I know. Yeah.
That being said, the Smoke Jackets covered "Hit Me with Your Best Shot" with the Baxter twins, Baxter sisters rather.
I saw that,
and it went over really, really well. Nobody complained. Nobody was woke and said, "Whoa, how dare you sing a song called 'Hit Me with Your Best Shot'?"
I was at a bar mitzvah in Long Island with my parents, and I started chatting it up with the band. Mm-hmm. And they let me play "Hit Me with Your Best Shot." My parents were so embarrassed to see me up there, they left while I played it. And I did moderately well with it. So
and a Neil Giraldo guitar solo that really is a pain in the ass.
Well, that I didn't do.
If you want to try a guitar solo, that's kind of weird. Check that one out.
Yeah.
So that's that.
All right, let's
Now,
try 9.
Let's see. Rule number 9. We're almost there, kids. Here's number 9. Number 9. Number 9.
Yes.
Your job is to entertain. It's a job. Treat it like one. Not a party for you. It's a party for them. And we have a little video to back that up.
Well, this is a surprise for me. Let me see.
Did I put it up here? Yeah, here it is.
There's a sense of entitlement.
Right.
You're not entitled to get a gig at any bar anywhere.
Right.
It is a job. It is a real job. You need to take it seriously. You need to understand your market. You need to have a plan. Know what you're going to do. You have to sell yourself. And when you're selling yourself, like for me, not I'll say, show me, don't tell me. You don't tell me how great you are. And you know what else don't do? Don't tell me how much better you are than all the other bands that play. Oh, we're better than this band. We're better. You know, once a person starts with that, I know they have an attitude. I won't even go near them.
Right.
Don't try to, don't talk bad about any musicians, even if they deserve it. You shouldn't do that. I mean, they're there and they're there for.
It's all negative energy.
So yeah, so if they can approach it like a business, put the energy into it, be professional, have something different, know how to market yourself, and come to you with a plan. I mean, very few people come to you with a plan and say, hey, here's what I'm going to do, here's how I'm going to promote the gig, and here's why we're different. Rather than, we play a lot in New York, we want to get down on the Jersey Shore. We play a lot in Pennsylvania, we want to get down on the Jersey Shore. We love your bar, and the bartender said we'd be great here. And here's 3 links. Click on these links. And every once in a while, if I see something local, because if it's local, it's more likely to work.
Right.
I'll click on a link, and I see a person in a four guys playing in an empty pub somewhere. It's not going to work.
That's helpful.
So that was like Rule 9A, Rule 9B, lowercase b, lowercase c.
Well,
our good friend Tom Chano and the Roundtable Show, which you can catch on YouTube anytime.
Anytime. And what's funny is, as you talked about Rule 9, I thought of Tommy. I heard Tommy in my head because that's one of our iconic, for us anyway, one of our iconic shows. It's one of our best shows because there was just so much wisdom. You guys as a panel, the 3 of you.
That was great fun to share our thoughts and so forth.
Yeah.
But he's right. It's a job. It's a real job. And he's the talent manager for Bar Anticipation in Lake Como, New Jersey.
Yeah.
He hires all the talent. He gets gazillions of emails and tons of phone calls and tons of text messages and stuff. And so how do you weed through all that stuff and find, a band that's going to fit the room?
Right. And
then once you finally get hired, if they're not paying attention to the people or playing for them or servicing the song or the band or whatever, and they're just, being disastrously drunk or partying or whatever, it's just not going to, you're not going to get called back. The hardest part about getting a gig is to get that second gig, right? Maybe that's a Bandmendment. So who said that? Paul Nelson said that?
I think he did.
Sorry, Paul. I stole that from Paul.
Yeah. Before we go to 10, we need a drum roll from you. Do you have anything you could do a drum roll on down there?
We could put one in.
All right, we'll put one in. All right, let's hear 10.
Here we go. Numero 10. This is a long one. Have integrity. You have a gift. That gift costs money. Demand good pay. Let the shitty bands play for free. When no one comes to see them play and the bar doesn't make money, then you'll have leverage.
Oh, I like that.
Now, I don't know if this would completely work or not, but there is something to be said about short selling yourself.
Yeah, it's believe in yourself. Recognize your own personal value as a. Yeah.
I'm sorry, David. Go ahead.
No, it's like value yourself as a musician, value yourselves as a band. I think there's a lot to be said for that.
Yeah.
It's powerful.
You could get undersold by another band and say, well, we'll do it for $100 a person, or we'll do it for $50 a person and maybe some door money or bar ring or something.
Right. Yeah.
Kind of deal. So instead of, well, what Tommy does is try to hire the bands based on their talent and draw. Some
Right.
bar owners will hire a band based slowly on, I got them cheap,
Yeah,
and I think that's a mistake.
Yep.
Now you could get lucky and the band could be fabulous. Now you've played your ass off. You've driven an hour and a half. You have a Gibson that costs $4,000, and you made $10 after you paid the bar tab. I mean,
Right.
what are you doing?
No, and then you're not happy,
Right.
and then that's even when you're there, one would hope you'll just be purely enmeshed in the music and the crowd, and that's a piece of it. I know, but if you're the whole time you're thinking, I'm going to have trouble filling my gas tank when I leave here because the owner of this bar is too cheap to pay me what I am worth.
Right.
That has to affect your performance.
And I've been in situations where I finished an entire gig and then the bar owner said, I don't have enough money to pay you guys.
Oh, really?
And, that's unacceptable. I mean, I would say, look, the place was packed.
Right.
Everybody was drinking. We played for 3 hours. Don't tell me you don't have $500 in there.
Wow. That's really bad.
But then, you get stiffed and you don't go back, or they come in at a lower price than you had agreed upon. But, a lot of times there are no contracts with these gigs, especially if you're just a little cover band playing little bars.
Yeah.
The Smoking Jackets level, we're playing much bigger rooms, and we don't have to put up any of that kind of stuff for the most part. And there are talent agents and so forth involved,
right?
And sound guys and all that kind of stuff. But when I was first starting out, there was a lot of that stuff going on. Just didn't treat the band well. You are dogs, and your job is to fetch, right?
Right. Yeah.
They don't want you coming in the front door with the equipment. You got to come around the back. You're not allowed to do this and that, and they dictate how long you're supposed to play for and how long your breaks are, or they don't want any breaks at all.
Yeah.
3 hours of continuous music, and like we can't do that.
Right.
Or whatever it is. They're bands put on bands, and a lot of bands just put up with it. They do it because they want the work.
And then over time, I have to think that band, as an ensemble, they will not feel good about themselves.
No.
And I think that has to affect performance and everything.
Rarely works.
Yeah.
So there you go. There's your 10 Bandmendments.
I like it. I think this was such a fabulous idea, Scott.
Thank you.
It's something that could really, get band members thinking, because whatever you do for a living or avocation, if it's your avocation as opposed to your profession, we don't spend enough time thinking about what we do to do it better. We kind of just do it,
Yeah.
And as a band, to just sit down and say, all right, we don't need to write out a mission statement or anything, but just to sit down and think about, what is our approach to each other? What is our approach to the outside world? To follow up with our show with Tommy, The Law of the Band, are we, right now we're all getting along? Do we have our sort of band prenup, so to speak, and all that stuff? And what you've come up with here with the Bandmendments, to me, it's an opportunity for everyone in the band to just sort of sit down and reflect a bit, because, the hustle and bustle of your life is we have 3 new songs. We got to practice that. We got to book this gig. We got to get to the gig. We got to break down from the gig. Oh my God, our bass player got sick. We got to find someone to sit in. And then instead, to force yourself to take a little time and think about us as a band, and this little exercise we had fun with tonight strikes me as very healthy.
Yeah, it's tongue in cheek. It's made to get a giggle out of you, but it's based in fact.
Yeah.
Just a couple days ago, I was reading a post from, I think, one of the singers of Matt O'Ree's band.
Yeah.
She was in, I don't think it was a Matt O'Ree band thing. I think she was doing a gig. She booked a wedding or some kind of highbrow event, and the restaurant wanted to charge the band for the food.
Oh, yeah.
So
you told me about this.
She sort of reached out in general and said, hey, is this a new thing? Is anybody paying for food for the band? We're talking about banquet hall gig.
Yeah.
Crap tons of money. Like, 350 people, a country club or something, and then they were going to nickel and dime them and charge the band for food.
Right.
I've never been charged for food in a wedding gig
When you come to
situation.
my house, I usually expect, a
Well, yeah.
small gratuity.
Yeah,
but
no,
yeah.
I always drop in a few bucks for the pizza you give me.
Yeah.
You make all this gourmet shit, and then I go there and you give me pizza, you jerk. Dave is an amazing cook, by the way, everybody. Follow Dave on Instagram, Dave Cohen. Dave R. Cohen. The R stands for risotto, I think.
It does.
He makes the most amazing. Back when we had Paul Nelson on, it's kind of a funny moment. You said you were listening to Paul's music while you were cooking dinner, and he was like, "Oh wow, what'd you make? What were you eating?" And he was probably expecting Dave to say like, SpaghettiOs or
Right.
toast. He's like, "Oh, I made a what'd you make?"
I made something pretty funky. I remember it. I wish I could. Well, maybe I'll send you a picture.
Nobu something.
Oh, that's right. I made the my version of the Nobu glazed cod.
Yeah,
that's what I made.
Yeah. And he was like, "What?"
Yeah.
So yeah, David's.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, my friend.
And he does it without a cookbook or a recipe.
I don't like recipes.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But then again, I learned guitar parts without reading.
We do this show without a script.
We
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
We talked for 51 minutes. We don't know if it's going to suck or we're going to get 6 views or 6,000 views.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we'll have some haters. I love that when haters chime in.
I'll send in some hate just to get it started.
Like Anthony Parker said, a guy was busting his balls that his chest hair was sticking out of his t-shirt, and nothing to do with what he was the content of his post.
Yeah.
Crazy stuff.
It is. Well,
so that's the Bandmendments episode.
It is.
And we love you, Dad. Dad is still around. Of course, doesn't play much at age 82, but he still has a ton of musical knowledge and is always ready to tell a story. If I just happen to hit a nerve or something, then he goes, "Oh, yeah. I remember something." Told me a story the other day how he played a Greek wedding. The owner of the restaurant was Greek, and it was his family, and the owner was out of town.
Right.
Snuffy's Pantages Renaissance and Scotch Plains, which is no longer there. Anyway, The whole thing was made out of marble this, marble that, marble floors, and they were smashing plates for the wedding. And a piece of plate popped up and hit my father under the eye, and he started bleeding while he was playing. He started really getting pissed off. And so the leader of the Melatones, Frank Piscano, says, "All right, this is a job, and don't get a fight with anybody. Don't beat anybody up. It was an accident." While he's saying that, another plate or cup smashes and cuts Frank's cheek from his nose to his ear almost.
Wow.
Gushing blood.
Wow.
All out fight breaks out between the band and the patrons.
Oh, that's fabulous.
So this is a story I never heard before, but I was talking about the Bandmendments show and this and that and the Melatones and the Skipjacks and the Rocketones and all this. And then this story just like came out of nowhere.
Wow.
So I always make a mental note to try to remember these stories and recant them here on the show.
Oh, those are great. Those are fabulous. Well, thanks for putting this together, Mr. Scott.
Yes, sir. We appreciate
Absolutely.
it. So coming up next, Dave, what do we have going on? We have our
Mike Wren. Yeah, we have a KISS special coming up, which should be a ton of fun. The #1 collector of KISS memorabilia, either in the United States or the world.
Something like that.
Yeah, so that should be a lot of fun.
We've seen thousands of KISS shows. He's also very, very funny. I did a podcast with him years ago called The Some Guy Show with Jay Such, and it was like Howard Stern on steroids. It was crazy. I thought for sure I was gonna be in the midst of somebody saying something or myself saying something was going to get me fired from my real job.
Oh, that's funny.
All we were doing was the top 100 guitar players of all time.
Yeah.
And it was kind of crazy, but I'm looking forward to having Mike on.
We're taping that in about 4 days or 5 days. 24th of July. Yep. Yes, and of course, time doesn't count because today's date doesn't even matter. We will live time immemorial. On all forms of social media. Yeah, we'll get it out there. Look for us on Facebook, Instagram, and of course, YouTube for the video of this. And if you want to just see it, you could go to YouTube. You just want to hear it. We're on virtually every podcast platform you can think of,
including Pandora, which we just added last week. So
Yeah, that was a good moment for us.
yeah.
And it's nice to have you on this side of the camera periodically. I enjoy it.
Yeah, it's nice to be out front instead of using my chat board.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you for putting this together, my friend.
Thanks. Have a good night, everybody. Dave, anything you want to say in closing before I hit the outro button?
No.
Okay, let's get out of here. Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.